So, one of the things that, at least is my opinion, when I moved and relocated from the Midwest out to sunny Mesa, Arizona, the decision was made. We don't have to deal with the tornadoes, or do we? We're pretty seismically stable, but you know what? Not to jinx anything, the next disaster is just one brief moment away. And right behind these first responders, who's typically on their tail? Of course, it's the American Red Cross. So today, we've got a representative from the Red Cross who is Michelle Birmingham. She's a senior volunteer and recruitment specialist, and she's going to talk to you about the Red Cross. Let's give her a big hand.
Well, good afternoon. Like he said, I am Michelle Birmingham with the Red Cross. Now, right now, my title is Senior Volunteer Recruitment Specialist, but I started out 2 years ago with the Red Cross as a disaster program manager. So while I recruit for volunteers now, I used to manage all of the preparedness, recovery, and response programs for Central Arizona, which includes Maricopa, Pinal, and Gila counties. So I'm really familiar with a lot of Red Cross's policies and everything that we can do, and I want to share with you the great ways that we can help serve our vulnerable populations. So a little background about Red Cross is a lot of people hear Red Cross and they think blood donations, or you have those images of the nurses helping out in World War I, those old cartoons. But did you know that Red Cross responds to a disaster every 8 minutes in this country? We respond to everything from a simple house fire to a car that has driven through your home, multifamily fires, hurricanes, tornadoes, everything. If it happens, we will be there to help you. 95% of Red Cross is made up of volunteers. I serve the Arizona-New Mexico region, so we have 2 states that serve for us. Sorry, pushing buttons that I shouldn't be. And 95% of our workforce is volunteers. We have 2,500 roughly volunteers in our 2 states, and only 40 employees. So we have 6 different departments and only 40 employees. That means we need volunteers to do a lot of our work for us. That takes a lot to recruit for them. So how do we get volunteers to do what we need them to do? And again, what do we need volunteers to do? We have them respond to disasters. We have them work at blood drives. We have them work with our service to the armed forces. Those are our major components of the Red Cross. Now, volunteer recruitment in metropolitan areas such as Maricopa County happens organically. People come in off the streets. When there's 4.6 million people in Maricopa County, you don't really have to work terribly hard to recruit. It's kind of a recruiter's dream because your neighbors will have something happen to them and you'll be motivated to volunteer. We use different types of recruitment strategies such as ads in magazines, billboards. I don't know if you guys noticed, if you live over by the Tolleson area, we had a billboard up for bilingual volunteers needed for the summer. That is one of our major pushes right now, is we need Spanish-speaking volunteers. So we do things like that. We post flyers in community centers. We reach out. We have conferences like this where we recruit for people, but this is major metropolitan. How do we serve those rural communities? Gila Bend, for example, very rural communities. How do we serve those populations? Our Gila County, again, vast county that is spread apart with its major cities. One thing that was talked about very early on today is making connections. That is a big proponent of how you recruit volunteers, is you need to make those connections now. You don't want to be walking into a community in the middle of a disaster and no one knows what you can do for them. So you need to make those handshakes now. We reach out to our tribal communities. We work really closely with Salt River, Pima, Maricopa Indian community. SRP MIC, they're one of our biggest supporters, and we thank them for that. We work well with Gila River. I don't know where Bruce went, but we work closely with all of our tribal communities, and we want to help them. And that is a big proponent of how we get into the rural communities. We need to talk to their tribal leaders. We need to talk to mayors. We need to talk to community leaders. We need to get that trust. We need to get that buy-in before we can start recruiting. Because if I just walk up to a stranger and say, hey, you want to volunteer for the Red Cross? I'm not going to get much buy-in, am I? So that's what needs to happen. I don't know if you guys have heard about the fires in Ruidoso. Major fires. It's been going on for a little over 75 days. And actually, most of our photos in this presentation are from actual clients in Ruidoso. We started out with only 3 responders in that area. When the Ruidoso fires happened, we had 3 responders in the area. Since then, we have had 72 people from that community volunteer to help us out. It's an incredible number of people. And how do we get those people? We share stories. We say, hey, I was your neighbor and I lost my home and Red Cross came in and they opened a shelter for me. Red Cross came in and they provided me with some assistance. They got me back on my feet. I'm gonna go serve Red Cross now. Would you like to come with me? We have to share our stories with them to build that trust and bring them in. We provide trainings to community members. That's another thing that we help in our rural communities. We're working with a couple of our different outskirts areas to teach them how to open up a shelter. If an emergency shelter happens, Red Cross can respond within 2 hours. But what if we have a level 4 disaster and there's hurricanes and we are tapped out on our resources? We're trying to teach our community members how to self-sustain because we want them to be able to sustain themselves if we can't be there. We will always try to be there, but what if we can't? Like we talked about, everyone is a first responder. So if we can't get there in time, how are you going to stay there until we can get there and support? We take everybody from ages 13 to 101. We had one of our oldest volunteers. Her name was Betty Grinig. She started volunteering at 17, and she sewed socks for World War II military members. And that's how she started with the Red Cross. And she would always say 3 things. Red Cross wants 3 things from you: your time, your blood, and your money. And she was a wonderful, wonderful volunteer, and we miss her so much. She passed away last April. But we want everyone to volunteer with us. We don't care how old you are, what you're doing in your life. 1 hour can just help someone else in your community. Talking about, again, age and availability factors. Who do we target the most for our recruitment? And honestly, right now, we're targeting retirees. One of our most time-consuming volunteer positions is our disaster action team. Those are the individuals that respond to house fires. While the firefighters are on the scene putting out the fire, Red Cross shows up and provides assistance to that family. So firefighters are doing their great work trying to save the home, save people's lives. We're there as a hand to hold, a shoulder to cry on. We provide them with immediate assistance so they can get a hotel room for the night. Most of the people that we serve don't have insurance. Well, we will respond to everybody, but 90% of our people don't have insurance. They have nowhere to go if their house is burned down. So we provide that for them for that evening. Then we provide 30 days of recovery services. And again, we use volunteers to do all of this. So recruitment is extremely important, both in blue skies when everything is normal, or gray skies when the stuff has hit the fan. One of the ways that we recruit during a disaster is called event-based volunteer mode. And this is something that it's an enhanced procedure for recruitment. So generally when we recruit a volunteer, they fill out this whole application, and it can take a few weeks. We do interviews, we do training, we process. Well, we can't do that during a disaster. So what we do is we turn on event-based volunteer mode, and this shortens the process. So we go from 2 to 3 weeks to wait to volunteer, so you can volunteer overnight, and we do hands-on training. And this is a great resource that we have. However, it doesn't make volunteers grow on trees. So even though we turn it on, doesn't magically mean volunteers will show up tomorrow. We need to, again, have that handshake, have that relationship. All of our volunteers go through a background check. Why do you go through a background check? Because we deal with sensitive client information. And a great example is we are going into homes to install smoke alarms for people, which I'll talk about later. If someone is coming into your home to install a smoke alarm, you would want them to be checked out, wouldn't you? You wouldn't want some stranger coming off the street into your home. So all of our Red Cross volunteers go through background checks. However, in a disaster, when we turn on event-based volunteer mode, that background check goes through a quicker process, so then we can get people and boots on the ground faster. So that's how we recruit for volunteers. But let's talk about what our volunteers actually do. I talked a little bit about some of our programs, but let's talk about service to the armed forces. So this is actually how Red Cross was started. We had a lot of nurses that would help out. In 1818, that's when we started, and it was to serve the military. We still do that to this day. However, we don't provide nurses in war-torn countries. That's other Red Cross. Every country has their own Red Cross or Red Crescent. The American Red Cross does not have nurses on the battlefield currently. But we provide resiliency programs. So how do these help our vulnerable populations? They provide coping and stress programs by licensed mental health professionals to members of the military, veterans, their families, and people that work with them. So we have 3 types of programs. One of them is coping with deployments and psychological first aid. That's a program that obviously helps them mentally prepare for deployments. Again, it helps the military member, it helps the families, it helps who they work with so they understand when these people come back from deployments or when they're on deployments, what they're going through. We have another resiliency program called Reconnection Workshop. These help people reconnect with life when they're in the military. So when you come back from deployment, how do you reconnect with your family? How do you reconnect with your friends? We also have mind and body workshops, which reduce stress and help our military members refocus and recenter on their health. Again, all of these are provided by licensed mental health professionals to anybody related to the military. We have our Hero Care Network. That provides critical support 24/7 to our military members. If they find themselves going to be homeless for some reason, they can call our Hero Care Network and have resources provided to them. We will help them find housing resources. We will help them find financial assistance, anything that we can to help these guys get back on their feet. Men and women, I'll say, get back on their feet. We have our emergency messaging system, and this is for military members. If you're deployed and say someone in your family passes away, one of your family members can go to Red Cross and say, I have John Smith, who is deployed to Afghanistan with Unit 67. Yes, I know that's not a real unit. And this is his information. We need to get a message to them. We will get all of that information, track down your loved one that is overseas, and make sure that their commander gets that information and try to facilitate them coming home. While we can't guarantee that they'll get to come home for whatever emergency it is, we will be able to facilitate that, and it'll be up to their commander, but we will ensure that they get the message. Then we follow up with them. So we follow up with them within 5 days and say, hey, were you allowed to come home? And then if they are, we give them some space, let them handle whatever family issue is going on, and then we follow up with them another 30 days and say, what services can we provide you? Do you need mental health services before you get resent back to Afghanistan? Does your family need coping classes? We provide all of that support to our military members. Then we have stand-downs and yellow ribbon events. Our stand-down events started as a resource for homeless veterans. These events have community members. It's like one big room like this where all different resources come for the community to serve our homeless veterans. They provide resources. We provide what's called comfort kits. These are nice goodie bags filled with toiletries that someone would need on a daily basis. And then we also provide them with resources on how to get back on their feet. They started out for homeless veterans. Anyone can come now. We offer it to everyone that's in the military. And then we also have Yellow Ribbon events. Yellow Ribbon events are for pre and post deployments. They just help, again, cope with what's going to happen, get them prepared for their deployment, how you can use Red Cross and different aspects of that. One of our other key components is our biomedical service. Those are the people that do our blood drives. We have 3 key initiatives right now to serve our vulnerable populations. And the first one is our sickle cell initiative. 1 in every 365 births will have sickle cell. Sickle cell is where your blood cells don't form round, pretty platelets. They form crescent moons. And one person described this as feeling like you have shards of glass running through your veins. So to combat sickle cell, what happens is we do blood transfusions for these people in order to reduce the amount of sickle cells in their blood and to provide some relief and to keep them from going into organ failure. Because as you can imagine, if you have curved blood cells that don't rub against each other, they hook onto each other, it can cause organ failure. Well, with that many blood transfusions in your life, we're going to decrease the amount of blood supplies that we have. So we are asking for an increased number of Black and African American donors. Why is this? I'm sure you all have heard that there's O positive, O negative, A, B blood types. But did you know that there's 600 different antigens that are in your body that is specific to your race? So if we take 1 out of every 3 African American or Black blood donations, it'll be a match to someone with sickle cell. And it's kind of like finding an organ transplant, which is why we are getting this initiative, is we want a diverse donor pool, which is our next initiative, to help out with these specific antigens to help provide life-saving and critical blood. So again, with our diverse donor, you have to have a specific blood supply. So we're looking for Asian American, Latin American. Every different race has their own specific antigens in it. So we really want a diverse blood supply. And I'm going to do a shameless plug right now. We are really, really low on blood, guys. So if you can donate, please donate. We changed our donation qualifications. So please, if you were deferred in the past, you might be able to donate now. So please, please donate blood. It is critical care. We also have our Power Red initiative. Our Power Red initiative is really cool because it takes all your blood that you're going to donate out, but it puts your platelets and plasma back into you so we can take twice the amount of red blood cells. And this is what's transfused into your blood during an organ transplant, during trauma. So basically, you double the amount of blood you give in one blood drive. So our biomed team is really important. It's one of our biggest proponents of the Red Cross, and it's life-saving. So if you can give blood, please give blood. Next, let's talk about disaster services. This is something that's really close to my heart because this is where I came from. I love emergency management. And so we're going to talk about both blue sky, again, when everything is normal, and gray sky when stuff hits the fan. So in blue sky, what do we do to prepare our communities and our vulnerable populations for disasters? This year, we had an extreme heat project. We went door to door providing heat canvassing information, like Jennifer's presentation talking about extreme heat and who it can affect. So I'm glad that I went after her because she laid the groundwork for that, so thank you. We were actually, with our initiative, we have been asked to go speak at the White House because it was so successful. We delivered about 30,000 flyers to communities across the state about heat awareness. We also have our home fire campaign. And this is what I talked about, installing smoke alarms. We install free smoke alarms to anyone who needs them. We will come into your home, install smoke alarms, provide education on fire safety, how to get out. If you have children, we will teach them to stay low, get out, and stay out. And we will make sure that those fire alarms are good for 10 years. But if you have hearing issues, visual issues, we also provide bed shaker alarms that'll shake your bed, as well as the audible alarms. And we have strobe lights to help our access and functional needs clients. So again, that's a free program that we do. We do these on an individual request basis. We also do them in a smoke alarm rally. So we have a lot of those coming up. They start in the spring with Arizona Burn Foundation, and we work with local fire departments to have 40, 50, 60 volunteers at one time go into one specific community, and we install smoke alarms in one community at one time. It's a really great event. Community members are welcome to come out, so if you'd like to be a part of that, we do training on the spot, and you can always find that on our website. We also do community education programs. So this is our Be Red Cross Ready. This is a 30-minute presentation that is tailored to the local emergencies in your community. So extreme heat, wildfires. If you live in a place with tornadoes, we'll do presentations about tornadoes. That's going to be done for communities, but we do it a lot at high schools. We want to educate the youth because they are our tomorrow. We also have our Ready Rating, which is for businesses. This is a free program that gets your business ready for a disaster. This is a continuity of operations program that we provide at free, and you can be certified as a Ready Rating Red Cross business associate. So it's a great program, so talk to your leads about that because it really is helpful to build a continuity program. We also have our hands-only CPR class. This is taught with our Be Red Cross Ready, and it helps save a life. While this is not a full certification, it will keep people alive until our wonderful first responders get there to help save their life. And then we have our youth presentations. We have a cute little penguin. His name is Pedro, and he's from South America, and he can come into your schools and teach kindergarten through second grade about fire safety. And again, get down, get low, get out, stay out. It's a very, very cute presentation for our young because we want them to be safe. They don't understand a lot about the dangers of smoke inhalation and the chemicals that can be in the air. They don't get that. So if we make it fun for them and ensure that they are safe during a disaster. Then when we have the actual disasters happen, I talked about our home fire response. This is our DAT team, Disaster Action Team. And like I said, they provide immediate response to families. We also open up a case for them so our caseworkers can follow up within the next 30 days. They provide, if you lost your ID, they can help facilitate that. They can facilitate resources to find housing and shelter. Our recovery programs are really, really impressive, and they're tailored to the area that you're in. So each caseworker that we have has resources for every area for the state of Arizona or New Mexico and can tailor it to the specific person that's requesting assistance. We also have major disaster responses. These are your hurricanes, these are your wildfires, but they're also your multifamily fires. When we have 40 units that goes up in flames, where are we gonna put all those people? We actually will open up a shelter. So we open up a shelter for a lot of different reasons. We have cooling centers as well that we will open. Those are a little bit different than the statewide provided ones. It has to be a disaster and it has to reach a certain temperature, but that's this type of shelter that we will open. And in this shelter, we provide feeding to all of our clients. We provide distribution of emergency supplies. So say you had a flood and you need muck out gear, we will provide that for you and help you get those resources that you need to clean up your home. With our both a disaster action team and our sheltering team, we have our DMH, which is our disaster mental health team. These are licensed mental health professionals that'll provide you not a formal counseling, but it's help to talk through what you're going through. When people experience a disaster, they need someone to talk to. And so we provide that kind of emotional support for them. We also have our disaster health services, again, licensed nursing and health professionals that provide hands-on care. They have, when you enter into a shelter, we ask a series of questions. It's called a CMIST form, and it stands for Communication, Maintaining Health, Independence, Support Services, and Transportation. And basically, we ask every single resident what your urgent needs are, your demographic information, your housing situation. Were you housed or unhoused before the disaster happened? Do you have medication that we need to help you replace? Do you have durable medical equipment that we need help replacing? If you're staying in the shelter, can your wheelchair fit around all the other cots, or do you need help moving your cot? Do you need power for your CPAP machine? Do you need a bariatric cot? Are you able to groom yourself and change your clothes and get to the showers? Or do you need a nurse to help you with that? And do you need transportation to your medical appointments or even non-medical appointments? Because we will provide all of that for you. And again, every program that I've talked about today is free. It's 100% free. There is no cost. And we just want to help our community, and we want to help our vulnerable populations. So with that being said, I just want to say that volunteers are the heart of the Red Cross. We cannot do it without our volunteers. We always are taking anyone that we can, and we will train you to do whatever job you want to do. But we love our volunteers, and I have a saying that says, if everyone was as compassionate and dedicated as a Red Cross volunteer is, the world would be a better place. And I say this because we have volunteers that literally work 80 hours a week. They're not getting paid, but they love what they do, and they want to help their community. And isn't that why we're all here, is we want to serve our community, we want to help other people. So thank you so much. In the books, there is a link to our emergency app. Our emergency app does have information if an emergency is happening in your area and what to do. It also helps you with some of our preparedness activities that I talked about. So thank you so much for your time today. I do appreciate it. I hope I didn't bore you to death. I know it's after lunch and we're all kind of in a food coma. So thank you for bearing with me, and have a wonderful day.